was the loneliness, the fact that there were no kids there. Finally, what I realized is that I would go into this coat closet to hang up my coat, and every time I went in there, I could hear voices of kids. They were laughing and talking. I never saw them. And I would mention it to my teacher who came all the way from Boston to teach me, because teachers quit their jobs. They did not want to teach black kids. So she came from Boston to teach me. And I would mention to her that I heard the kids, and she wouldn't say anything. Later on, I realized, or came to realize, that there were some white parents who crossed that picket line to bring their kids to school with me. And the principal, who was against it, would take those kids and she would hide them so that they would never see me and I wouldn't see them. But every time I went into that coat closet, I could hear them. And I thought my teacher was ignoring me, but she wasn't. She was constantly going back to the principal and saying, "You're breaking the law. The law is now changed and kids can be together, yet you're hiding them from Ruby. If you don't allow them to come together, I'm going to report you to the superintendent." And that forced them to take me to where those kids were. And I will never, ever forget that day, after spending almost a year looking for those kids. My teacher took me right back into that coat closet. And there was a door there behind a cabinet that I had not seen. And she moved the cabinet and opened the door, and we walked through there, and it led to another classroom. And when she opened that door, we walked through it, and there they were. 4 or 5 kids were sitting on the floor playing. And I remember looking at them and thinking, I knew I heard kids. And I was so excited because all I wanted was some friends to play with. It didn't matter to me what they looked like. Doesn't matter to 6-year-old kids. And I went in to sit down to play with them. And the little boy said, "I can't play with you. My mom said not to play with you because you're a nigger." And when he said that, I can still remember that to this day. I looked at him and I thought, so that's what this is about. It's not Mardi Gras. It's about me and the color of my skin. He made it make sense. And I was never angry or upset with him, because in my 6-year-old mind, I thought he was explaining to me why he couldn't play with me. He said, "My mom said not to play with you because you're a nigger." And I thought, well, if my mom or my dad said not to play with him, I would not have played with him. Whether he was black, white, Jewish, Asian, Indian, Muslim, Hispanic, I would not have played with him. So I wasn't angry with him. I understood. But he made it all make sense. And I no longer have to look for the kids anymore. That's where I learned about racism. But the teacher, she looked exactly like the people you saw on the screen. She looked just like them, but she wasn't like them. She showed me her heart, and it was different. She was different. And so I knew at that point, she looks like them, but she's not like them. So I can't judge a person by looking at them. I got to get to know them. And that is where I learned the lesson that Dr. King tried to teach all of us. That you should never judge a person by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And that first grade shaped me into who I am today. I spend the majority of my time in schools across the country speaking to kids, because I did not want the sacrifices my father and my mother And I knew that my work needed to start with kids, because that's where I learned my lessons. And so I always say to them, if you ever go to a nursery and you see all those babies lined up there, all these different babies, not one baby will turn and look at the other one and say, I am not living next door to you. And babies don't do that because they can't speak. It's because each and every one of our babies come into the world with a clean heart, a fresh start in life. It is us. We as adults, we take racism and we pass it on to our kids. And it grows. And then before you know it, we are where we are right now. Racism is still here, still alive, and it's growing. And the sad part about that is we teach that to our kids, and then we open the door and we let them out into this world. And racism has a way of making them think that you need to only love and trust and hang out with your own kind. We're setting them up when we do that. Because all of us know that you cannot look at a person and tell whether they're there to help you when you need help, or whether they're going to be there to harm you. You can't look at them and tell. So when we open our door after teaching our kids that and we send them out into the world, we have set them up. That's dangerous. And I know that firsthand. You see, because I always say that I have 4 sons. I only have 3. I have 4 in my heart. My oldest son was murdered right here in the city. He was not a prejudiced person. He met no strangers. Not even the stranger that shot him down. Got out of his car and he went to the back of the car after they bumped him in the back. He said, there's no damage. It's okay. It's fine. And he turned around and walked away and got back into the car. But before he got back in the car, I should say he tried to get back in the car. They jumped out of the back seat of the car and they shot him 11 times. Somebody that looked exactly like him. You can't look at a person and tell. Luckily, somebody helped him, picked him up, put him in the car, drove him to the emergency room, and he lived 4 hours. Now, I am so extremely grateful for those 4 hours. See, because he was a praying child. So I knew in those 4 hours, he prayed. And I knew that he went on to be with the Lord. So I'm extremely grateful for those 4 hours. And if you think for 1 second that I give or gave a damn what that person looked like, that picked him up and drove him to the emergency room, you have another thing coming. Didn't matter to me what they looked like. They gave me 4 hours. Racism is dangerous. Racism is worse than it was when I walked up those stairs. And it is up to us to change it, to make this world a better and safer place for our kids. No child should have to endure what I did. And no person should have to endure what we are still enduring. Those of us who are of like minds and like hearts, we need to be doing this work. Doesn't matter what you look like. You don't have the luxury of picking and choosing. It is about your heart. It is about good versus evil. Evil doesn't care who it uses. Evil doesn't care what you look like. Why should we? It is time that we all come together to do this work, to make this world a safer place for our kids. I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy what I endured, losing my child. I commend you on the work that you're doing. But you need to understand how important it is. It is time that we come together for our kids to continue this work, the work that others fought and died for. And if it has to start in schools, so be it. That's where it started with me, in schools. And I say that it's time that we come together to make sure that that happens. And a good place to start, history. You see, you have to know where you come from to know where you're going. I know that. I did not know who Ruby Bridges was because I didn't know the story. I wasn't taught in schools. And I am amazed every day when I'm in a school. I walk into a room, just what you guys just did. All of the kids in the school, we do the same thing, and it blows me away. I'm thinking, I wish this could work with my kids. It is amazing the power of this story. It's not about me. I'm just the body in the vehicle. The story has a life of its own. And it's because of the message and the work. I'm just proud to be here. I'm just proud to be chosen to be the vehicle, the instrument. And I will always, always know it's not about me. Thank you.